With the Ghost Recon event this week, it looks like Ubisoft have quite a good 2020 planned. We also have a job listing that shows wild ambition for Square Enix's Avengers project, and then on the industry news side, Riot Games employees are taking a stand, and our dear friend Randy Pitchford has been hit with a surprising allegation. Once more, into the news we go. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Roundup, the twice per week gaming show where we, round up all the gaming news that you need to know and bring it into one place. There's actually quite a lot to talk about this week, a few major industry topics, and let's kick it off with the League of Legends, developer Riot Games walkout. So, I mentioned Riot Games recently. For context, the story has been that Riot employees were planning a walkout, driven by a history of reported poor work culture and the news that alleged harassment cases were being taken into private arbitration. Now, to briefly explain private arbitration, when you have a legal claim, usually that claim has to, go through the legal system, where it faces scrutiny, and both claimant and defendant face a judge and a jury. Now, that means that you have your chance to be heard, make your voice clear, and undergo a fair, process to a resolution at a lot of expense. Justice, one of the principles of society. Right, well, arbitration is when it instead goes to a third party, an arbitrator, outside of the legal system. This results in a faster and more confidential system that is a lot cheaper. Now, forced arbitration is a part of many industry contracts where employees basically sign away a whole bunch of legal rights and claims and say they will instead go through private arbitration, which often will favor the company and can be quite an intimidating process. Now, this practice hit the news when Riot employees had to take alleged harassment claims to arbitration instead of the legal system. Now, in order to end this practice, the employee walkout took place yesterday. Over 150, I believe maybe over 200 employees took a stand, primarily against the forced arbitration clauses, but also a lack of progress on the leadership's end to tackle concerns faced by employees, including the lack of effective punishment for misbehaving executives. This, according to Kotaku, is the first labor-related walkout for a major studio, and I think it could be quite an important precedent to set for the industry, and it's relieving to see employees exercising their power in this one. So hopefully employees at other studios will be able to find the courage to really do the same if they need to. I mean, just think about the NetherRealm stories of late. This is a story that we'll have to follow up on, though, over the coming months. Riot have promised to support those who walk out, but of course they have, and actions will speak a hell of a lot louder than words. Next, though, Mordhau, because you know what? It's nice to see a good indie success story. Well, we've got this game called Mordhau. It's another one of those success stories, selling 500,000 units in its first week of launch for $30 and reaching a concurrent player count of 60,000. The developers have apologized for a, quote, abysmal launch that was plagued with server problems arising from the sheer quantity of unexpected players. So yeah, a less than ideal launch, but it has not stopped the game amassing 8,000 reviews in Steam, being 76% positive in spite of those issues. So really, Mordhau is an astonishing success for a development team of just 10. What exactly is it? Well, it's a medieval combat game. It is focused on really being skill-based and being competitive and featuring a wide array of customization. It was originally a passion project for a Slovenian computer science student until he grew his team and got the game kickstarted for just under $300,000 back in 2017. However, unlike many Kickstarter games, this one seems to have been pretty damn smooth, and the backers were pretty excited. Let's put it this way, Mordhau was so highly anticipated that some players were leaving reviews on Chivalry, Medieval Warfare's Steam page, announcing its death and proclaiming Mordhau as the new king. Overall, though, it sets an exemplary standard for other indies. There's really good developer communication. They've fostered a very strong community, and, first and foremost, they released a really darn fun game. Next, though, less of a success story, Anthem. So, the faith that players are putting in Anthem to improve is dwindling rapidly, and this latest news has not helped. Executive producer Mark Dara, lead producer Mike Gamble, and lead director Jonathan Warner have all left the project, with Dara and Gamble moving over to Dragon Age 4, I think very much as expected, and Warner intending to take a personal break. Is this a sign of Anthem going on life support like many have said? No, it's not. Dara and Gamble are part of BioWare Edmonton, and it always has been the intention for the long-term post-support launch of Anthem to be handled by BioWare Austin, regardless of, whether it was good or bad. Anthem's head of live service, Chad Robinson, said this shortly after the news broke. We remain 100% committed to Anthem and look forward to showing players the new content that we're working on. We want to make sure we aren't over-promising, so our updates on what's coming in the game will be focused when we have things near completion. Along with Ben Irving and I, we've got a big team between Austin and Edmonton focused and motivated for improving the game. We appreciate your support and for being on this journey with us. So honestly, look, this is nothing really out of the ordinary here. If Anthem had released as a much better game, we would have seen the same thing really happen. We would have seen those responsibilities be moved. After all, Mark Dara has been executive producer on each of the Dragon Age games, and Dragon Age without Mark Dara, based on his involvement with the entire series, would be perhaps less of a Dragon Age. So it does make a lot of sense. That said, there's obviously a lot of worry for Anthem. The roadmap pretty much completely crumbled, and even the Elysian chests, which were a part of the endgame reward loop, they have been removed in the most recent patch. BioWare have claimed they were just sort of a limited event, and there was technically some stuff to suggest that in the past, but it all just has felt pretty darn random, and they did just, remove a source of reward, which, given that game's other problems, I don't think players are going to be particularly thrilled about. Next up, Ghost Recon Wildlands. So, Ubisoft have been really great at teasing new games through ARGs and content updates. And with Wildlands, they've been providing crossovers with their other Tom Clancy games, and in the most recent update, players have found out how it all ties together. There's an in-universe company called Skell that has a real website that says they're holding SkellCon on May the 9th. Now, Ubisoft has since confirmed this on their Twitter, that they have a Ghost Recon reveal this coming Thursday. So, yes, all signs point to a new Ghost Recon game as opposed to new content for Wildlands. As to what it could be, I think the obvious choice is Wildlands 2, given that Wildlands fits a underserved niche that Wildlands did super well, and the relaunch of that game could be really quite massive. It sold many copies, but did suffer at launch, but since has evolved to be a solid part of Ubisoft's lineup. And really, Ubisoft have been nailing it. Their blunders seem to mostly be relegated to history, and every game they've released seems to get the love necessary to keep new and current players engaged. Ubisoft's monetization generally, I think, has been quite fair, but there are some things like the microtransactions in Assassin's Creed that I really hate. Still, though, they mostly are focusing on what they're good at, and their games are often catering directly to groups of players and what they actually want, and hopefully that's just something that continues with whatever they announce this week. The world has changed. E3 hasn't necessarily changed with it. This is going to be a strange one without Sony. So Sean Layden is on record as saying, with our decision to do fewer games, bigger games over longer periods of time, we just got to the point where June of 2019 was not a time for us to have a new thing to say. To combat both of these concerns, though, they have moved up their live stream, the State of Play, their version of Nintendo Direct, to make announcements. Their next one is on May 9th, and it will not involve the PS5. Instead, it's said to have more information on Medieval for the PS4, and then some updates on upcoming PS4 games and the debut of a new game from PlayStation Worldwide. Now, there are a ton of studios under the PlayStation Worldwide umbrella, though, so it's really quite hard to speculate as to what that could be. It's not going to be massive, though. This State of Play is going to last about 10 minutes, and it's not that much, there's not much time left after, say, an extended look at what Medieval is going to be. What is interesting, though, is that State of Play, this one is almost 7 weeks after the first. If they stick with this, then the next State of Play will be just after E3, which I'm sure, many people will sort of expect them to counter the E3 hype with their own games. I think Sony in every which way are displaying a lot of confidence. They're saying, we don't need E3, we can show up with our games when they're ready and we will succeed. Now, saying that, their first State of Play was not met with that much praise, given that Nintendo just execute the same format better, and that none of Sony's news really excited core gamers, and this one could be more of the same. Still, hopefully they can figure out some way to drum up a bit of excitement, because as much as their fewer, bigger games plan might work for developers, it certainly doesn't really work for the speed of the news cycle. Next, and still on the topic of actual games, we have Devil May Cry coming to the Switch. No, not the HD collection, just Devil May Cry 1. Capcom have been on a rampage, porting their games over to the Switch, fresh off many recent successes. Devil May Cry, of course, was revived when 5 was released to excellent sales and reviews, and Capcom are clearly seeking to capitalize on this, as well as riling up many for the calls for Dante's inclusion in Smash, whether they're really being serious or not. Now, to be honest, there's a bit of a problem here. Why Devil May Cry? Why not the HD collection? Well, Capcom might be getting just a little bit greedy. Switch releases of old games have been selling super well, priced about, the $20 to $30 range. Capcom's own Dragon's Dogma made it onto the top 15 list for digital sales in Europe in April, having only released on the 23rd of April, and that was $30 ago. Now, it's not bad. These are games that usually do stand the test of time and do perform well on the Switch. However, in Devil May Cry's case, it's just a bit worrisome because, well, the HD collection is available for about $30 digitally on PS4 and Steam, so unless they sell the first game alone for $10 on Switch, it's going to be much worse value, priced sort of unfairly just because it's a, platform where users will pay more. We'll have to wait and see how it turns out, but I think it's somewhat maybe in bad form. Okay, next, let's hop over to some quickfire news, because that's most of the big stuff out of the way. There are a few more topics, though, that I'll just quickly blast through. First of all, Crystal Dynamics recently had a job listing for a narrative director. They wanted somebody with extensive film knowledge and a decade of experience on cinematic AAA games, and interestingly, the, quote, ambition to create a Game of the Year title. Now, Crystal Dynamics are currently working with Square Enix on an Avengers project. It's a multi-game partnership. It seems like a very big deal, so they seem to have a very lofty goal in sight. While Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal have created some very good games as of late, they really clearly seem to be hungry for more. I'm worried this project could be too big to succeed, especially with just how we've really heard nothing since it was announced 2 years ago. Well, they seemingly do have all that they actually need to make a fantastic experience, so I suppose I do just hope it goes well for them. Now, next, we have a new patent from Microsoft. It's an Xbox controller with a haptic braille output. It would be a standard Xbox One pad, but with a braille display on the back, allowing for visually impaired players to be given haptic sort of text output through the haptic feedback. This would work for reading basically any in-game text or on-screen stuff, and it could even translate audio for players with impaired vision and hearing. It's unlikely we'll see this device anytime soon, given that Microsoft seem to patent just about everything that they can think about, but it's a fantastic development if they do actually manage to get it out there, as Microsoft have already, they've been quite damn fantastic for accessibility with their Xbox Adaptive Controller. There is then one last thing to cover today, and that is a full-scale report video on the channel. It's a big, long one. Randy Pitchford has been accused of physical assault by David Eddings, an ex-Gearbox employee and the voice of Claptrap from Borderlands. It's all via Twitter, with Eddings claiming that he offered to voice Claptrap for free in exchange for getting royalties owed to him from his time as an employee that he didn't get, and an apology for the reported assault, which took place in a hotel lobby during GDC 2017. Now, I've got a report that is on the channel about this right now, because it also goes into an extremely major lawsuit from the past. There's a bunch of stuff that kind of corroborates, and suffice to say, it's a very rough situation for Pitchford and Gearbox, and I'm not really sure how they're going to navigate their way out of this one. And then let's round it off with a Patreon Q&A. So, the Arbiter asks what steps that I take to remain as neutral and unbiased as I can when doing reporting. So that's an interesting one. I think the first thing is to realize I'm actually not neutral and I'm not unbiased. I think if you don't, it's very easy to put up the facade of being neutral and unbiased. If you want to do that, you just have to talk in a certain way and seem professional. People are like, okay, that looks professional, therefore clearly it's neutral and unbiased, which is a load of BS, and that is something that people will use all the time to try to, just manipulate and all of that stuff. So for me, yeah, it's actually about thinking, I'm not neutral, I'm not unbiased, I actually do have opinions on this news, but I think that by acknowledging that, you're able to separate your opinions from your coverage a little bit more, and that helps to create the two of them be a bit more separate, and just leads for better videos where it's kind of clear that, there's stuff happening, you get my opinion on it, and that's pretty much what we're doing. Procedurally, though, that's something that's very important to us, so each video gets touched by 3 people, so the research and writing will, for any video, either be me and or Matt. So that's two of us. Matt's kind of like my producer. He's doing a bit more writing stuff now, a bit more researching. So we kind of work on all of that stuff together. And that means that most scripts actually have two sets of eyes, two brains going over them before they even get recorded. Then, of course, I, will record a video. And then whenever the video gets edited by Connell, well, if anything is just completely crazy and off base in the video, he will flag it up. So that essentially means that built into our production process, we have 3 stages of review. So there's the research that me and Matt will normally do into a topic. We'll kind of compare notes and sort of move on to the writing process for a video. And then by both of us moving through that together, we, again, just sort of have 2 sets of eyes looking at the whole thing. And we end up just having like takes for a reporting that I think are managing to be pretty on the money. And then if anything is untoward and makes it past that stage, and then Connell gets to it, then he'll pick it up in editing. So that's essentially how that works right now. Of course, I do want to hire more researchers. That's pretty much the next port of call. And whenever that happens, we're probably going to integrate another step into our video production process to help us be even more neutral and unbiased where possible. So there you go. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you want more content on the channel, I really recommend the report on the Pitchford situation because it's kind of important and, well, just pretty darn insane. So thank you very much for watching this video. And with that, I'll see you next time.